understanding, though, of the need to develop angles and not come straight down the middle. Although that left hand landed for Pacquiao and maybe hurt Floyd Mayweather.
Jake Paul is back on top. It took a return to his feast of MMA-turned-boxers for him to raise his hand in triumph. Nate DIAZ, a UFC fighter, fought valiantly in his pro boxing debut, but was dropped midway through a 10-round unanimous decision loss. In their pay-per-view main event fight at the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas, Paul won by scores of 97-92, 98-91, and 98-91. Paul lost his first career fight in a split decision to England's Tommy Fury earlier this year, but he was delighted with the modifications he made to win on Saturday. The majority of the sold-out audience backed the 38-year-old former MMA fighter, who made his pro boxing debut. When the bell rang, the crowd couldn't help Diaz because Paul instantly went on the attack. A left hook and a series of right hands had the Stockton, California native injured and on the defense less than a minute into the fight. Paul punished him along the ropes, but was unable to follow up in the second half of the round. In the first minute of round 2, Diaz fought from the outside. Paul, a Cleveland native who lives and trains in Dorado, Puerto Rico, rapidly closed the gap and landed right hands upstairs, interspersed with body shots. Diaz clinched his way out of trouble and alternated between playing to the crowd and throwing close-range shots. Paul went back to his left hook, which he used regularly in round 3. Diaz's head snapped back around 80 seconds into the video, but he showed no symptoms of being harmed after that. Diaz briefly glanced aside to see if blood was streaming from his nose, following which Paul unleashed an uppercut and then a left hook over Diaz's high, unconventional guard. Diaz entered the fight with a punch in a tense fourth round. Paul continued to land left hooks and right punches. Diaz, on the other hand, began to bridge the gap and landed enough left hands to catch Paul's attention. Only one round later, the fight shifted dramatically back in Paul's favor. Paul used his ring knowledge to create space from a sluggish Diaz. A step back perfectly set up a left hook to the temple, causing Diaz to slip to the canvas and nearly through the ropes. He managed to beat the count and land a couple of power punches. He also took a right hand to the body along the ropes and continued to turn away and pause in place. In the case that Diaz was attempting to construct a trap, Paul would inch closer but never recklessly. Diaz made it all the way through round 6 without touching the canvas or absorbing anything significant. In round 7, Paul drew Diaz's attention with a right hand that pushed him back but did not cause any further harm. Both fighters delivered close-range uppercuts, with Paul winning the encounter. Throughout round 8, Paul was on the run, while Diaz kept his ground and waited to corner the social media influencer. As Paul ran out of ring space, Diaz hit multiple left hands and right hooks in the final seconds of the round. Diaz landed 26 of 57 punches in the fight's finest round, but couldn't resist an attempted headbutt just after the bell. In round 9, Paul delivered a right hand to retake control of the fight, which was the first time Paul had gone beyond 8 rounds. Diaz stepped back slightly, then played possum in an attempt to pull his opponent in. Paul refused to accept the bait and instead let Diaz play to the crowd. Paul returned to boxing fundamentals in the 10th and final round. He used his jab and mobility to deny Diaz the opportunity to land and deliver his straight left. Diaz's version of a flurry along the ropes briefly changed that with less than a minute to go. Diaz couldn't get away from his MMA roots as he used a guillotine in the final seconds of the fight. He may be able to use such skills in a rematch on terms more appropriate for his combat sports background. $10 million in the PFL, Professional Fighting League, that's the offer, Paul said afterwards. Let's do it again in MMA. I got one, and now it's your turn in your territory. Let's do it, MMA. It sounded good to his long-standing out-of-ring competitor, with whom he has now forged a sort of collaboration. I'm down with that, said Diaz, whose Real Fight Incorporated presented Saturday's event with Paul's most valuable promotions, MVP. He beat me, but I got him with a single leg in the first and a choke in the 9th, so I won that battle. Paul improved to 7 wins, 1 loss, and 4 KOs after returning to the win column, more than 5 months after his lone career defeat. This was his 4th distance bout in the previous 5. The one exception was his 6th round knockout of Tyrone Woodley in December 2021, following a split decision victory over the former UFC welterweight champion 4 months earlier. The MMA battle with Diaz is great with the multi-talented businessman, but there is some unfinished business. There's a lot of names if we go back to the drawing board, Paul observed. A rematch with Tommy Fury. I was defeated in a tie vote. I'm going to try to get it back. I'm a fresh fighter on this new team. I'm ready for that, but for now, I'm happy with this win. That's our boxing update for now. This is Boxing Sports Zone. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos and updates.